Yo, what is up? Your boy is back again. Welcome to the Players Ball Podcast. I am your host, Roddy. You can follow me on Instagram at Roddy404 as well as on Twitter at Roddy Remastered. But more importantly, please follow us at the podcast on Instagram at the Players Ball Podcast as well as on Twitter at the Players Ball 1. I mean, what more could you ask for this weekend in terms of entertainment value? I didn't watch every single second of every single game, dog, but this was such an incredible weekend of sports. Like, I can't remember where we had something going on in multiple sports like this for at least a few weeks now. So we'll definitely be getting into the NBA playoff stuff. We'll definitely be getting into the Euro stuff. We'll definitely be getting into the Supreme Court ruling that came up. But we cannot do anything on this show before we give a standing ovation to the Atlanta Hawks. Like incredible game. I mean, just incredible series. There's really not much more I can say about this team, bro. Like, when the Hawks were going into this series, I said, okay, the key is going to be Philly's bench. Because Philly's bench, to me, and I tweeted this on my personal Twitter, is not that good. They just aren't that good. And they get solid minutes from George Hill, but he's not going to score the basketball. They're going to get solid defensive minutes from Dwight, but he's not going to score the basketball. And now that you have Danny Green missing, you have to put in Furkan Korkmaz, as a starter. That kind of messes up your rotation and causes you to have to, play those younger guys, Maxey, Milton, Thibault, a little bit more than you probably would want to in more key spots. And, I mean, ultimately, it was the downfall of this team, Danny Green's injury to me. But really, I don't understand what's going on with Ben Simmons. And, obviously that's the hottest topic of the entire day, weekend. It might be the hottest topic of the entire month, just of how bizarre that performance was. But we'll get into it later. Let's keep it on the game. So, I mean, the real key to this win for the Hawks was we're going to exploit the matchup that we should have been exploiting, like, from the beginning of game one, the beginning of, game prep, everything, which is attacking Seth Curry, because he is not good defensively. He's just not good defensively at all. And you could see where he was given a lot of energy on offense because they needed that second scorer. He was lacking on the defensive end, and that's why Kev got off. And to me, I was really confused because I was expecting Nate to go at that matchup really aggressively from the jump. Like, I really did, because honestly, if you look at every defender on the 76ers, you have to rate Korkmaz and Seth, of the guys that play, of course, the worst ones. And you saw it in that game 7. So even though Seth was great offensively, it really didn't matter. And again, Ben Simmons, like, I don't know, bro. I don't know. We'll get into it, but it's just baffling. It's baffling. And Embiid, he played all right, but again, over 5 turnovers again for him. Like, I think he had 8, if I'm not mistaken. And you just can't do that and win playoff games. Like, especially if you're a star, especially in a closeout game, bro. Like, you just can't be careless with the basketball. And that's what the Sixers were. And honestly, there are a lot of people who shoulder blame for this loss. Doc Rivers himself as well. I mean, you're going 10 deep in a playoff game, even though I know you're experiencing, some injuries and things like that. But, like, you're going 10 deep in a playoff game with guys who, they gave you some stuff in spurts during the series, but they didn't give you anything that you could ride home on, something that you could say, man, this guy has earned his opportunity in order to be in the game in such a big spot. And it came back to bite him. I mean, just so many things for the Sixers. and so many things that the Hawks really, I mean, they performed, they did well, but they did get a lot of breaks too. I'm going to be honest. They did get a lot of breaks. It was a lot of times and moments where the Sixers should have capitalized on something. You know, obviously the two big leads, the 26 and the 15-point one, but it was just more than that. It was mentality, it was strategy, it was everything. Like, they just weren't built to win this series. And to be honest with you, I really don't know how they're going to move forward from this with the same unit. Like, how in the world could they possibly move forward with this same unit? How could they say, well, after Ben Simmons did what he did, man, we're confident that if we added him or them to this lineup, then maybe we can do it. Like, it's just not realistic, man. It's just not. Because, again, if you're going to be playing 4-on-5, like, it's not even worth it. You saw it with the Nets. Like, if James Harden's not moving, he's not himself, he can't do what he can usually do, then you're playing 4-on-5 and you're basically cheating your team. So, I mean, look, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking that, you know, the Hawks have a great chance against Milwaukee, and we'll preview a little bit of that as well. But I'm sitting here with the belief that, man, if Milwaukee was struggling to, and, you know, of course, KD, he can hoop. But if Milwaukee was struggling against a team who doesn't have nearly the defenders that the Hawks do, not to say that we have any shutdown defenders, but they just don't have the same level of defending that the Hawks do, or guard play, or guard scoring, and they were still having a rough time getting past Brooklyn. They were still having a really rough time being able to really, like, have convincing wins. They did have convincing wins. They won game 6 pretty convincingly. But, like, it's still kind of difficult for me to really sit here and say, well, okay, like, I believe in the Bucks and I really think that they're, you know, bulletproof or anything in that aspect at all. So this series should be probably the best one of the entire playoffs coming up, Bucks and Hawks, just because I think these are two teams that can score. It's going to be a lot of firepower. It's not, I mean, they have good defenders, but the focus on defense isn't going to be as large as it would maybe, you know, in the previous two series for the Hawks, because, I mean, let's be honest, they took out two really good defensive teams, like, not just in terms of the East, but in terms of the entire league. Like, Philly and New York are very good defensive teams, and the Hawks did it. So what I'm looking forward to is not only the Hawks gaining the confidence and the experience that they need to, you know, if they don't get to the point where they want to get to this year, you know, have that experience to go off of in the future. And, I mean, anything that happens from here on out is going to be a success, because no one could have envisioned this, like, at all. No one could have. But this is just a great coach team, a team who believes, never thinks they're out of it, and a team who is just focused on being the best them. They don't want to emulate any other team. They don't want to do this or that or try to be this, you know, model of them or anything like that. They want to be their own entity and do what they do the best. So, I mean, just hats off to the Hawks, man. Like, this is for, you know, the precedent that they've set in the past. This is just uncharted territory. Like, this is the most confident I think the fans base has felt in the team in its entire history. I mean, yeah, you can say Dominique was a great, you know, athlete and, you know, scorer and all that stuff, but I'm telling you, man, this is like, it really feels like it can happen this year. So I'm not going to put too much weight and jinxing and all that stuff on it, but just know, man, the Atlanta Hawks are for real. And if they keep this foundation, if they keep this mentality that they have as well, they're going to do nothing but be successful in the future as well. All right, now that we got that out the way, it's time to get into our news segment. We want to start with a shout out big shout out to Carl Nassib. He is a defensive end for the Las Vegas Raiders, and today he came out as a gay man. We want to applaud him as well for having the courage to do so and share his story with the world and give confidence to other gay athletes who, 9 times out of 10 are closeted and afraid to speak out because of the stigma of not only sports, but, men in general. So definitely shout out to Carl. I know he's going to get a lot of attention this year, and he's going to do a lot of great things with this platform that he has. And I just wish him all the best. Hopefully, I'm not familiar with him, I'm going to be honest, but hopefully he gets on the field, get some tackles so, we can give him some love. So shout out Carl, man. That's beautiful that you were able to share that with us. Now, to keep it moving, we want to go to the track and field. And we got to shout out my girl, Sha'Carri Richardson. She took off. Like, when I tell y'all she dusted all these girls in her qualifier to not only qualify and dust them, but she's going to the Olympics for her first time. And honestly, it should be an experience that, is breathtaking. I mean, just being there is going to be amazing. But I think she's actually going to show up too because she has the talent to do so. And we were really supporting her and behind her because of the image. She had a super orange wig / weave in. She had the long nails. She, was channeling the FloJo energy, which we loved. It was a great nostalgic feel, but it was her own thing as well. And that's why I think she got as much love as she did, because she was trying to, pass on that energy and that culture and that swag and flavor to the new generation and carry that torch. So, man, I'm going to be looking forward to seeing her for real, because she is fast, like I said, and she has a great chance to, make some noise in this year's Olympics. So shout out to her and congrats for going to Tokyo. Now, let's move it to the NBA. And we mentioned the Nets. Their season is over. They gone fishing, like the TNT boys would say. And honestly, man, this was a okay season for them. And I feel like they underachieved only because of injuries. But at the end of the day, man, you're going to have to figure out, okay, what can we do to make this team better in terms of the others? Because let's be honest, man, like, the Nets others were giving not a lot. I mean, Blake Griffin played way better than I expected him to. I'm not going to lie to you. But I'm talking about the Bruce Browns, who was Landry Shamet, who was Joe Harris, who was objectively bad for a good stretch of the series. And it's just a lot of holes that can't be filled. And when you have guys like Kyrie, who, let's be honest, man, Kyrie is a little injury prone. Like, I'm surprised that he hasn't got the stigma of being injury prone as much as guys like Anthony Davis and, Embiid and other guys get, but he's injury prone too. And James is dealing with some more injuries now. He's getting, into his prime-ish, but he's still getting a little bit older. KD is coming off the Achilles, so you obviously got to watch him. And, he missed some games this year as well. But it's the others, man. If you're going to get 49, from KD and win, not convincingly, then you got to add to that, because he should not be expending that much energy in order for you guys to beat a team which I feel like you're more talented than, regardless of one of your best players not being able to play. So the Nets are going to go into this offseason and then, they're going to be fine, right? But I really think they need to pay attention to getting scorers and not shooters, which was a great point that somebody made in reference to what the Lakers need this offseason. They need more guys who can say, I'm going to break you down, I'm going to get to the rim, I'm going to score, period. That's what's going to happen. And not guys that are like, man, this guy can light it up, but when he's off, he's not helping us. He's not doing anything because he can't break that guy off, the dribble and things like that. So it's all, it's all indicative or, really important that scorers are prioritized and not just shooters. So we'll see how the adjustments are made on both teams, but I think they'll be fine in the future. They just got to pay attention to the small details, man. Now, to keep it moving, the Suns, they dusted the Clippers in game 1, but I expected them to just because of the performance that the Clippers put on in that game 7 against the Jazz. It's just incredible, like what they did in that game 7. And Terrence Mann having 40, well, actually it wasn't game 7, it was game 6, I apologize, in LA. And a dude who we don't even know to score 24 points, in this entire series. Like, up until that point, Terrence Mann had 24 points in the entire series. And he went for 40. And we'll get into why he did that. But, it was kind of expected that the Suns were going to come out, play really well, maybe not win by this much, but, they're rested, man. And Devin Booker is a dog. He is a dog. And, Stephen A. thinks he's going to be the next Kobe. I don't want to put that expectation on him. I want him to be Devin Booker. I know comparing him is the easiest way to get people thinking and talking about it, but I think he can be potentially the best player in Suns history over Barkley and others if he gets the rings and gets the, stats and accomplishments behind it. So shout out D-Book, man. He's been amazing this playoffs. Amazing. Now, Kemba Walker in trade news was, and you can't make it official until the season ends, right? But he is in principle traded to the Oklahoma City Thunder in order to get Al Horford back from the Celtics. Now, why did they make that trade? Don't really know, man. Don't really know. Like, that is a great question. And that's something that, obviously Brad Stevens had to agree to since he's president of basketball operations now. And this is his first official move. He feels like Kemba's contract is awful, which it is. And, he has, I guess, an interest in getting, a little better defensively. Al Horford is old now, man. And I don't know if you can really rely on him on the offensive end that much either. I've only watched a handful of Oklahoma City Thunder games this year, but I didn't hear nothing about Al Horford lining it up. I'm going to be honest. So, honestly, I personally feel like this, if you're the Celtics, is a trade that you're like, okay, but where's this going? Like, what is the ultimate goal? And we'll have to rate, obviously, to see what that's going to be. But Brad Stevens needs to instill a little bit of confidence, not only in his fan base, but in his team that, hey, I'm going to make the right moves as the executive in order to put you guys in the best position to win. So we'll see what happens, man. But this one's kind of a head scratcher because it's to unload the heavy contract. I know that. But, for Al Horford, I guess that's just the only team that would take him. Whatever. Now, to move it over to across the pond in our Euros, we, by the way, are 6-0 in the last 6 bets that we have placed on Euro 2020. So please tap in. The picks come out a little bit early. I know people have some kind of stigma about gambling that early, in the day, but come on, bro. Let's be real. Money is money. Anyway, stay tuned to our Twitter at ThePlayersBall1. We'll have picks out there. But to keep it moving, Germany, they really just dominated against Portugal. I know they made some mistakes, Portugal, but they really just dominated against them. And they really showed that the loss against France was just predicated off of mistake because they do look really good. Now, I don't think they can win the tournament, but I do think they're going to be a little bit more formidable than I thought they were because of just the lack of, scoring in the front for them. They don't have a real striker to put the ball in the back of the net. They have a lot of creative players like Muller. They have, Gnabry, and they obviously have Kai Havertz, of my Chelsea Champions League final winners. But they they just, I don't know, they're not enough for a championship, but they still are a fun team. So shout out to Germany. They're going to be good this knockout stage. I'm be interested to see who they draw. To keep it pushing though, Denmark, coming off of Christian Eriksen, tragically, having a heart attack on the field, they absolutely smacked Russia today, 4-1, and they advanced to the round of 16 too, which is such a beautiful moment. Obviously they wish they could have their number 10 there, Christian Eriksen, but I mean, this is a great alternative, and I know that they made their fans proud and they made Christian proud. So I think, and I'm not the guy for moral victories, but if we're talking about a guy, who almost literally died, man, like died, you're going to take what you can get in some areas and aspects. So definitely I love, that they were able to qualify and they're going to get a little bit more shine on a more national stage. Now, Italy, though, is the team to beat in my eyes. I mean, Belgium has looked convincing in their games, not gonna lie. France has looked pretty good, but I just don't think they've looked as good as Italy. Like, they've got the midfield, they've got the defending, they play very creatively, they've got the finishing, which didn't always come, when it needed to in their favor, but they have that now, right? And honestly, I really feel like they are going to be a tough team to match up against because of their defense and because of how their midfield can just simply control the game. Belgium would probably be their best, or should I say most difficult matchup. But all in all, I think Italy's in great position to win this tournament if they get a chance. So to keep it moving, though, England is a team that I feel like is just so overrated. Like, they drew with Scotland at home. Yeah, it was raining, but you didn't do anything convincing or, make it seem like y'all were really going to pull it off. So I honestly am confused as to what is going to happen with this club. I mean, they're just not doing anything convincingly. They play so boringly. Their coach is pretty bad. Like, everything is going wrong for England. So hopefully they can get it together. But I just think they have a lot of talent, but they don't have the coaching. They don't have the chemistry. And they don't have a foundation or blueprint, which, I mean, if you're in major tournaments with the talents of the likes of the Germanys and the Frances and the Portugals and the Italys and I can't say Spain because Spain's pretty bad too, but all of those big names, you're not going to get over the hump by just being okay enough. So England, y'all gonna have to step it up, bro, for real, like right now. But to cap it off, we're going to go back to the NBA and just announce that the draft lottery is tomorrow before Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals. And I honestly would put my money on Houston to win the number 1 pick just because it's such a big market. They really haven't been this low in the draft order in a while. So I would say Houston's probably going to win. But again, it's ping pong ball, so you never know. But I mean, regardless of what happens, the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to be picking the most players in that first round. I think they have 4 picks. So maybe they get one of the top 3 seeds too, because they had one of the worst records, or a lottery record, should I say, as well. So it's going to be interesting to see this new era of player, especially with, how COVID affected the NCAA season and everything like that. And it'll kind of be interesting to see if these players develop a little bit slower in comparison to the others, but it'll definitely be an interesting draft lottery to watch. So be sure to tune into that. And like I said, if I had to put money on it, I'd probably put money on Houston winning. But that is going to do it for our news segment. Now you know what time it is. Let's get into the big 3. All right, man. It is time for the big 3, the 3 biggest topics in sports. And for the first 2 positions, we're going to do the winners and losers of this past round of the NBA playoffs. Now, the 2 losers are obviously Ben Simmons and Rudy Gobert. I really think that both found out, honestly, that they are probably better suited in different situations. And I think their teams found that out too. just with the way that the league is moving in terms of shooting and, aggressiveness and, being able to guard a multitude of positions. I think Ben Simmons is great in that area, but Rudy Gobert is not. And there's things that Rudy Gobert does a little bit well, and Ben Simmons doesn't do that well. But they both don't really score like that, which is a problem for both of the teams they're on. But with Ben Simmons, I mean, this slander has been unprecedented. Like, I have never seen a player go through a stretch where not only are they not shooting, but like they're afraid to do so. Like, they're not even looking to do so. There's been multiple times that even as a Hawks fan, even as a person who had money on the Hawks to win or to do this or that, I found myself screaming at the TV, Ben, shoot, please, something. Like, and it's so frustrating, it's got to be for everyone involved, because there's really no way in order to fix stuff like this. Like, yes, you can shoot hundreds and hundreds of jumpers, but if you ain't got it, man, you ain't got it. Like, you just don't. And it's so heartbreaking personally for me, because I mean, I want to slander the guy, but it's like, when it's that mental, when you're that afraid, and when you're on that stage, and let's be honest, you've accomplished a lot, like, in your life, maybe not in your NBA career, but in your life, just getting to the NBA, with the accomplishments that you had in high school and college. You were able to do that by developing not a great jump shot, but just a good enough one. And he hasn't even had that. So I get everybody saying, oh, well, he's truly right-handed and da-da-da. But, dude, like, I really felt like he would have been made that switch if he really was strong in, man, I don't think I'm in the correct shooting position or hand or whatever. Like, I think I need to change up a lot. I think I need to go to the right opposed to the left. And of course, we've seen this before in NBA history. I mean, even Tristan Thompson has done it, right? But, I mean, I just really feel like he would have done it already if that was really the issue or the problem. So he needs to seek a therapist. He needs to really try to figure out not how he can work harder to get this done, but why is he not confident? Why is he not aggressive? Why is he feeling like he is not being the key piece that his team needs him to be? Is it because he's afraid to shoot free throws? Is it because he, is afraid to go over and airball and further ruin his confidence? What is it? But it needs to be figured out this year. Like, or he's going to have to go. Like, if you don't trade him this year and you try to figure it out and hope that he can figure it out this offseason, he has to go, because this is as worse as it's gotten. I mean, there's this quote from 4 years ago now that keeps coming up where he's like, man, Hackabin, that's not going to go on for long because I'm going to hit the free throws. And 4 years later, we're still talking about Hackabin. He can't hit the free throws. So I'm really praying for Ben Simmons, because, I mean, he's going to have a hard time having a long NBA career, of prominent roles at least, if he can't shoot or score the basketball. And it's crazy to think that he had a 42-point game this year. Like, he scored 42 points. But that was without Embiid. That was a different situation during the regular season. So, it's a crapshoot. The team that they're playing against could have been either super tired or super unmotivated or whatever. But it's just really hard to watch at this point, man. And it's getting to the point where if you're Philly, you can't keep suffering and supporting and just being, well, all right, Ben, we're going to try to support you in every way possible. Like, you need to make a business decision if you don't feel like this is going to be beneficial for your team. And as of late, it just doesn't seem like it is. So I don't know what they got to do, but they got to figure that out. And I mean, with Rudy Gobert, like, he's minus 24 in game 7. You let a dude drop 40 on you that he didn't even score, again, 24 points in the series up until that point. And he just dropped 40 on you. And honestly, that is a detriment and a staggering indictment of Quinn Snyder, the head coach of the Utah Jazz, because he just simply wouldn't take Rudy out. Like, he wouldn't put in maybe a Joe Ingles or a Jordan Clarkson or whoever. But the issue with that is those guys aren't that great at defense either, man. So the Jazz are in a really tough position as well because, dude, how do you trade away the guy who's won 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards? Like, how do you rationally do that? And even then, what value do you get from him? Because where is he going to go that he's going to make a team better? And I think every team knows that, which is why it's such a tough market for him. So honestly, Gobert is going to have to get better offensively. But if he's going to be the big man and he's going to be unplayable when you go to small ball stuff, you're going to have to supplement that if you want to keep him on the team. If you want to ensure that you're not getting bust open in the head by role players for 40 points. Like, you just got to figure something out. And that's probably going to be at the cost of the Jazz's scoring, which they lay their hat on. So, honestly, man, these two teams are in trouble and they both need to do something drastic in order to get out of the situation they're in. Because if they don't, I really do not see them winning a championship or even competing for one, especially if these other heavyweights in their conferences get better this summer. So we'll have to see what happens. But those are the losers. Let's go to the winners. That's definitely Giannis and Trey Young. Giannis, who quietly was amazing in Game 7, and he really didn't get a lot of support from his other guys. Drew Holiday was pretty terrible. And as well as, Chris Middleton was all right towards the end of the game. Not a world beater performance, but a pretty good one. But Giannis is, man, like I was saying in our previous podcast, stop hating on Giannis. I mean, yes, his bag is still limited. Like, I'm not going to lie, Giannis's bag is still limited. But I really think he can be a force in this particular series because, again, the Hawks don't really have a guy to match up with him strength-wise. They're going to have to make him be a jump shooter and hope that he doesn't knock him down like he, didn't obviously in the last series. But it's still going to be a task in order to guard him. And I think he's going to eat because of it. It's just up to the other guys, like I say all the time, to get off and to make sure that they support him in the right way. But honestly, I mean, you can't really slander anything really directly towards Giannis or other than, his bag not being deep because it's not like he hasn't showed up. Like, he hasn't put up stinkers. Yes, him making shots would make everyone's life easier, of course, but he's still confident. He's still taking them and he's still working. So I have a lot more optimism when Giannis is shooting and he's not really shooting the best because he's confident enough to take them. And he's confident enough to say, well, I mean, if I don't shoot it, who else will? And if I do start making this at a consistent clip, then this can take my team to a whole different level. So he definitely was a winner from that semifinals. He played fantastic. And so did our guy Trey Young, man. I mean, what more can we say about this kid? He played awfully last night, but yet and still, he came through in other areas for the team. And he hit those daggers late in the game that solidifies you saying, well, he had a bad game, right? But at the end of the day, man, this kid is special. Like, he is really something that is to be beholded. And, man, look, he doesn't even have his full asset of players around him. You're still missing the Cam Reddish and a DeAndre Hunter, who they're going to be the two biggest misses in this matchup because I think Milwaukee, while Drew Holiday is a really good defender, PJ Tucker is good as well, they just don't got the guys guard-wise to me to match up really well with the Hawks. I mean, DeAndre Hunter gave Pat Connaughton 33 with no Trey. So that missing him, is going to be huge, obviously. But I still think they can pull it off, man. I still think they can get a solid just performance from somebody, man. Shooting, scoring, whatever they need. They just need to, in game 1, game 2, find which matchups you need to exploit and win it comes to important times in the series, exploit them and exploit them heavy. But Trey, everyone said that he was going to be a liability either defensively, even though, he hasn't been great defensively, but he was going to be a liability defensively, or he's going to be too inconsistent offensively. And he's had moments where he's both, right? But yet and still, he is going to make sure and maintain a level of, okay, if I'm not doing it, then my teammate is going to do it. My teammate is going to get the lob and do this, that, and the third. Like, it's that level of composure that really impressed me. So he's definitely a winner from this past weekend and from the past 2 rounds. I think his stock has just done nothing but go up, and I'm proud of the guy, man. After everything that has went down and what he's had to go through with the bad teams he's been on, he deserves every single bit of this. Now, to cap it off, the Supreme Court ruled against the NCAA, saying that the organization cannot deny players, receiving financial benefits. So we're about to see a major shift in the next 2-3 years in the NCAA. Now that the players are basically going to be allowed to make money off of their name and likeness, maybe not directly from the NCAA, which it should be coming from, but it's going to be with outside endorsement deals. And I thought the biggest surprise of this, not to get too political, but it was that Brett Kavanaugh, who y'all can look up what the controversy was before he got elected, and just y'all read that and go ahead. But from a guy with that on his record, I was really surprised that he was a guy standing up and saying, hey, this is unfair. In no other industry in the entire world, let alone America, would this be flying. So why does the NCAA think they are above the law? And that's how the NCAA has been operating for, the entire time. They've been operating as, well, we are the institution. We're blessing you. We're doing you a favor, even though you're taking on the risk of dying, labor, having a horrible college experience, being depressed, not knowing what you want to do with your life, failing just in so many ways, that you can count. And it's just like the NCAA is like, y'all students, y'all amateurs. And it's just the most ridiculous, bogus thing to me, because these guys are on a professional schedule and yet they still get called amateurs and, less than professional when that's what they are. So we're getting closer and closer, man, to this legislation that we've needed for decades and decades and decades to get passed so these guys can get paid so we can enjoy NCAA football again, most importantly. But it's just going to be really important for, the entire landscape of college football to have this, because it's going to open up the game to be better, man. It just is. If these guys are playing for money, they're just going to be better. That's just in your brain. That's what's going to happen. I don't know how to explain it, but that's just what's going to happen. And I think it's taken so long, and now there are real people with real power who believe that, man, this can happen. So shout out to the Supreme Court. Don't really know why I did that or when I'll ever do that again, but shout out to them for making the right decision to deny the NCAA for, basically robbing these kids, man. Robbing them. But that will do it for the Big Three. That will also do it for our podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Again, follow the podcast on Twitter. We'll have all our gambling picks there at the Players Ball 1, as well as on Instagram at the Players Ball Podcast. And then you can follow me, Roddy, on Instagram at Roddy404 and on Twitter at Roddy Remastered. There is going to be some good NBA matchups. We're going to be looking at a lot of different intricate details about both of these conference finals. So we'll have updates on what I saw from Game 2 on Thursday, as well as everything else that's going on in the sports world. So thank you guys for listening. We appreciate you. Please subscribe, comment, do all that stuff, and we will holla at y'all on Thursday. All right? Peace.